CART IndyCars. It's America's most prestigious open-wheel racing. A $17 million a year business attracting worldwide recognition. The USAC Silver Crown are Champ dirt cars. They trace their roots back to the beginning of IndyCars, yet they've kept many traditions up and most costs down. Sprint cars, the backbone of open-wheel racing. They've been power sliding around these tracks the same way for 40 years. The contrasts are many, yet one man, Galen Fox, manages to bring them together in one racing team.
Hello everyone, I'm Dave Bowman. You know, in the early days of IndyCar racing, it was common for a team to campaign a championship dirt car, a sprint car, as well as an Indy car, all out of the same garage. And they were all prepared and maintained by the same crew chief. Today on this episode of Hidden Heroes, we'll meet Galen Fox, one of the few men left that still follows that tradition.
Mention the name Galen Fox to most men in open-wheel racing and they just shake their heads in amazement. Nobody does what he does anymore. For a dozen years now, this legendary mechanic has been in charge of one of racing's busiest operations. 3 different cars as amazingly comparable as they are different. The sprint car at 1,300 pounds and an 85-inch wheelbase runs 30 to 40 lap features on short dirt and paved tracks. Powered by a 410 cubic inch Chevy engine, it can be bought race ready for about $40,000. The championship dirt cars run 100-mile races on a mile dirt and paved tracks. They weigh about 200 pounds more and are a foot longer than a sprinter. They're powered by a 355 cubic inch Chevrolet engine and they cost about the same. Then there's the Indy car. They run at speeds over 225 miles per hour and have a 115-inch wheelbase. They run on paved street, road, and oval courses for at least 200 miles, and they must make pit stops. Horsepower of all 3 cars are almost identical. The Indy cars, however, are only 161 cubic inches, but equipped with turbochargers. The biggest difference is the cost. At $300,000 plus, these cars are 7 times more expensive. Galen somehow keeps it together in all 3 series. In the Gore Racing shops in Indianapolis, Indiana, Galen and a very small staff of 5 men prepare sprint cars, Champ dirt cars, and Indy cars to run not 30 races a year, not 60 races a year, but...
We go to approximately 110 or 15 races a year between the sprint car, the dirt car, and the Indy car. And Galen holds it all together.
Well, I think he's probably the only one in the nation that's looking after a sprint car deal, a dirt car deal, and an Indy car deal. So that's pretty unique in itself right there.
Racing. It's the essence of Galen Fox's life. He made his reputation in the 60s and 70s in Southern Indiana sprint and super modified racing with the Kinzer clan patriarchs, Bobby and Sheldon.
Well, Galen is one super mechanic. Galen is real particular. He wants everything just so, and he's always been that way.
A lot of these chief mechanics, when they got rid of the dirt cars, they were happy because they didn't want to run all those. And with Galen, he has just enjoyed it. He loves going to the Champ dirt cars, and he loves the sprinters. And that's what he grew up around, and so that's the reason why he's so happy about them.
55-year-old Galen Fox has been building racers to run on these dirt tracks for more than half his life. He's created a legend out here, a legend embellished by assaults on the big time, even the biggest, the Indianapolis 500. Yet Galen Fox feels at home on these rough dirt tracks where the denim-clad Heartlanders are drawn to these special places created simply out of the rich Midwestern farmland. It's a summer ritual, like pilgrims to a shrine. They're lured by speed, danger, and men who challenge both. Galen Fox is unique. He's a hidden hero in not 1, but 3 of the toughest forms of motorsports. We'll be right back with America's open-wheel evolution. Hero Galen Fox were a baseball coach. He'd work a high school game on Friday night, a college game on Saturday, and the pros on Sunday. An impossible job, you say? Yet there he is with an Indy car, a sprint car, one of those grand old championship dirt cars, all running on one weekend in 3 different locations. And you know what this one-man band dislikes about it?
Since we started running our own Indy car, in '81, and I had to start hiring more and more people. That was the hardest switch for me to make in racing. And I never did really trust somebody else to do my job. And I probably still have a little trouble with it. You know, it's something you got to do, or you can't do it all by yourself anymore.
The workload is as much Galen Fox's fault as anyone's. When you run 3 cars in 3 different types of racing, you must be organized. That's one of Galen Fox's challenges and headaches, keeping all 3 teams running smoothly.
Well, the biggest challenge for me is being able to keep the IndyCar going and make all the connections and keeping the help and it's just expensive, and there's so much traveling. The races so close together, and you don't have much shop time. And the sprint car and the dirt car thing, it kind of comes easy. It kind of takes care of itself with the help I got on it now.
Dick Hammond, Gore Racing's owner, likes the IndyCar program. But what keeps him ticking are the old champ dirt cars and the car that's been the backbone of American racing for 40 years, the Sprinter.
The sprint car and the dirt car are real racing. To me, real racing. They're the most enjoyable end of it. It's the kind that, you know, you can, on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, make 3 races. We run well. You don't have a great deal of expense, comparatively speaking, involved. And besides, if I didn't go sprint car racing, Galen might decide he wanted to go someplace else.
Well, Dick's kind of like I am. He likes the sprint cars, and he really likes the dirt cars. And he likes the Indy cars. He wants to continue doing it. And he knows how well I like the dirt type cars and everything. Sometimes I think he partly does it for me, and mostly for himself, I think. I think he likes the cars well enough to keep them. And he told me that as long as we race, we would always have a sprint car. So that made me feel good.
Winning makes Galen feel good. Once upon a time, he and Sheldon Kinzer were synonymous with winning. In 1977, they won the Sprint Car Championship, finishing in the top 10 38 out of 50 races. But those were less businesslike days back then. When open-wheeled racing took off in the Midwest after World War II, the likes of Jimmy Bryan, Tony Bettenhausen, Bob Swikert, Roger Ward, and a kid from Texas named A.J. Foyt did exactly what Galen does today. They ran the Sprinters, then loaded up a champ car for an all-night road trip to race the next day 500 miles away. The month of May has always meant Indy, but in those days the crews and drivers were not exclusive to the big cars. As IndyCar racing grew, the sport specialized, and those who could left their sprint car routes to concentrate on Indy cars. The American racing family split in the early 60s. Galen Fox is the only man left who continues to keep it all together.
It used to be a little fun. Now it's all business. It's big business with the sponsors and stuff and the people involved. They got to treat it like a business. And I'd say the fun part of the racing, of that part of it, is just about going.
And that, more than anything else, is what hurts Galen Fox about running the IndyCar portion of his 3 Series program. Fox and his team compete with a handicap on the IndyCar circuit. He and his car owner, Dick Hammond, can't find the money or the manpower to win against the specialized, highly focused efforts of the Penske's, the Patricks, and the Gallases.
That all comes with sponsorship, you know. If you land a big sponsor, a lot of better things come along, you know. Except for the Chevrolet, which is it's for a limited group of people. They can just build so many of them. And they pretty well say who can get them and who can't, you know. I mean, at this point, we couldn't afford them if they said we could have them, you know. You're fighting to be able to finish well and make a good showing, and things are going to get better the next time, you know.
Like any kind of racing, you get bit, and it's pretty hard to find a cure.
I don't dislike the Indy cars. I would just soon be running sprint cars and dirt cars, but we've been together a long time, and we're fortunate enough that he's been really a good friend, and as long as he wants to run them, I'll try to run them.
The entire crew tries their best with what little they have in the IndyCar program. Mostly made up of knowledge and sweat, they run the $17 million a year PPG series because it's the one that draws the attention. But Galen is drawn back to where he started, back to the friends he grew up with, back to where racing is not suffocated by sponsorship pressures and politics.
Well, I tell the boys sometimes it's really the only way you can keep your sanity is take off and go to a sprint car race once in a while and kind of forget about the rest of it.
Follow our hidden hero from the Mid-Ohio IndyCar race to the dirt race at Du Quoin, Illinois. This is Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, a 2.5-mile, 15-turn track considered the best and most beautiful in the world. But Galen Fox doesn't like this or any other road course because he can't see if his race car, much less his driver, is performing properly. Old-timers like Fox don't understand. After all, if God had intended cars to race like this, he wouldn't have invented fairgrounds. But here's Galen Fox with his blue and yellow Spirit of Wichita IndyCar, driven by rookie Jeff Wood, who's qualified 20th. For Galen Fox and the Gore Racing team, it's as big an accomplishment as winning the pole for Teo Fabi and the Porsche team.
The qualifying part of it is the biggest challenge. The race kind of comes natural, or it kind of comes around. It's easier to prepare for the race once qualifying's over. And the biggest challenge is getting qualified for the race.
In 1989, their best qualifying position was 16th, right in the middle of the 33-car Indy 500 field. Indianapolis. Now that's another story. Even if they ran this race with bathtubs or baby carriages, Galen Fox would want to be part of it.
The start of the race is probably, still makes cold chills go down your back when the national anthem and back home in Indiana, you know, and when the bombs start going off and everything. Well, it takes a little while to gather everything back up, but I think everybody that ever worked on a race car would like to go to Indianapolis.
But the Galen Foxes of the world have tough sledding at Indy, or anywhere for that matter on the IndyCar circuit. As Teo Fabi celebrates Porsche's debut in Victory Lane here at Mid-Ohio, Galen is at the back gate collecting just over $15,000 for 16th place. In 1989, Fox and his team finished higher than they started in 6 of the 7 IndyCar races they ran. While their best finish of the year was a 12th at Michigan, the team didn't view 89 as a failure.
It's hard to compete against the Patricks and the Penske's and everything, but as long as we can do good and we feel ourselves we've done a good job, that's what matters. And I believe that's the way Galen feels too.
From the Mid-Ohio IndyCar race, they drove all night to meet old friends 400 miles away at the Du Quoin Silver Crown Nationals. For 50 years, Du Quoin has been synonymous with what used to be called big car racing, now called the Champ Dirt Cars. The Du Quoin, Illinois State Fair hasn't changed much from those golden days when they ran with the likes of Bob Swikert and Judd Larson and the immortal Ted Horn, who lost his life right here on this track. It's virtually the same place as when it opened, and virtually the same powerful, tough cars compete here. It's why the old-timers come back year after year, to men like legendary king of the roadsters A.J. Watson and Galen Fox. It's their reunion.
I'd like to win Du Quoin. It's one of the biggest races, and it's an old race. It's got a lot of history.
His Champ Car team can't compare it to a Penske or a Patrick or somebody like that, and there isn't too many that can. But as far as the dirt car deal, he's as good as any of them as far as their team.
Danny Smith, Galen's hired gun, knows by now that with this legendary mechanic, all he has to do is wiggle his hands just right, and Galen will know what's wrong.
I think I'm a little loose because I get loose, and then I'm getting aimed towards the bottom. I the track kind of comes out at you, and then I get out and
Slow getting in over here.
It's never a big deal. Galen simply does what's needed to win. He doesn't get mad at his drivers, nor does he laugh real loud or cry real hard. It's why a real racer would offer his firstborn or his favorite dog just to sit in one of his cars.
he's been around a long time. He understands racing. He understands the bad nights, and he tells you he did a good job on the good nights, so it's a lot of fun to race with him.
Galen, that don't bother him. You know, if he wins a race, he's the same person. If he totals the car out, which I've done it for him, he's the same person. He just walks around. Even when Sheldon was alive and drove for him, Sheldon would win it or destroy it. Same old Galen. You know, he don't change. He's just, he's that way.
On this Labor Day Monday, Danny Smith moved up 8 positions from his 18th starting place and finished 10th. It wasn't bad, but it was time to think ahead to the Wednesday nights in Putnamville, Indiana for an old-fashioned sprint car race.
I think you get a lot of self-satisfaction out of running a sprint car. You can, it's getting pretty serious. It is serious racing right now, but you can go back and if you do good tonight, why, it's not the end of the world. You can, tomorrow night there's another race. You can jump in the truck and go to another one, and I think you just get a lot more self-satisfaction out of and being able to see your car and work on it and make it better.
Next, great sprint car action on a field of dreams. As far as our hidden hero Galen Fox is concerned, there's just nothing better in life than a sprint car race at a little bull ring like Putnamville on a Wednesday night. It's part of his job to run with the big boys in IndyCar, but this is the racing he truly loves. The Southern Indiana Field of Dreams is where it begins and ends for Galen Fox.
Actually, you could build the motors yourself, you could work on the car, you can do everything to the car and go out and see it do well. If it does well, you feel like you've really done something. It's a really competitive, and of course, I guess once you grew up in it, it's just something you want to go back to.
At this race, he'll actually fill another role. Galen's 19-year-old son, Brad, will compete under his dad's coaching.
The holes bother you? No. I'll get some laps and be all right.
He's been around it so long, he knows about all the tracks around here, because this is where he started out and everything, and he is working with me about how to run the car and where to run on the track, because he did it when he was younger, so it works out good for me now.
It makes me awful nervous. I never did really get nervous at a sprint car race till you watch your own kids try to run, you know, but they're pretty safe.
For Brad, it's simply a learning experience. His goal is to go out, get in some good laps, and not break anything. Danny Smith, on the other hand, is the hired gun that this audience came to watch. Putnamville has a special crowd. Farmers that live off this same soil come to watch neighbors, relatives, and friends, and a local boy made good like Danny Smith do their stuff. This may not have the trappings of the Indianapolis 500, but the racing is closer to what it used to be. Wild. A late caution has bunched the field up and allowed Danny Smith to fight wheel to wheel with his only real competition, an old friend of the family, Randy Kinzer, the newest member of the Kinzer Racing clan. For Galen Fox, the irony of this battle brings back memories of the Midwestern open wheel fraternity he spent half his life with. Danny Smith and Randy Kinzer put on a show for the folks of Putnamville that they may never forget. A perfect Indiana evening for Galen Fox, filled with friends, family, and competition he's grown up with. His driver, Danny Smith, takes home the checkers, and son Brad brought he and his car back safely in one piece.
We're having fun now. That's what it's all about.
The flash and big business of IndyCar racing is Galen Fox's challenge. But the close-knit world of championship dirt racing and sprint car racing, well, that's his family.
Someone once asked Galen Fox his idea of a perfect day.
Win the Indianapolis 500 and go to Bloomington that night, run a sprint car.
For Hidden Heroes, I'm Dave Bowman.